Today's video is going to be a little different from the other videos I make. Generally, I make videos about Python trading strategies using AI. In this video, I'm going to review an AI-based stock picker that recently caught my attention. I'm going to talk to you about how it works, and I'm going to talk to you about some of the trades that it takes and what I think is the rationale behind that trade. I'm going to try to reverse engineer what their strategy is, and I'm going to suggest how you can sort of improve that strategy yourself. At the outset, I want to say that this is not a paid post or an affiliate post. I don't know these people, but the reason I chose this particular stock picker is because I think that unlike a lot of the AI stock pickers in this space, which I think make unreasonable claims, this seems to be much more reasonable in their claims. They have sort of they show both their wins and their losses. They have a what it seems like is a reasonable sort of win percentages, and sometimes they win, sometimes they lose. So I feel like it looks more legitimate to me. I don't have a way to know whether a service is legitimate or not, but at least at the outset it looks fairly legitimate to me. But having said that, I think that I do not recommend that you use the service. It's pretty expensive at $100 per month, and I personally think that using some of the strategies that I show you and you can learn on the internet, you can build something similar to this. And we're going to discuss a little more about that in the last part of the video. So with that introduction, let's come to the stock picker. It's called Yuyostox. And the idea is that they send you a daily email notification, so 2 to 10 signals per month. So at the beginning of the day, they tell you like you should buy this stock, and then you just pay $100 per month to sort of subscribe to that email. So it seems reasonably simple. And the idea is that they hold their positions for a max of 30 days, and they are trying to gain 5 to 10% in those 30 days, or else sort of sell the stock. And let's see. So I think one of the things that I do like is that they have they give some clues on their strategy. So basically, it's like a screener. It sort of monitors and tracks on a daily basis thousands of stocks, and pick stocks that have a strong potential to deliver short-term returns. Eliminates penny stocks without a track record, low recent volume. That's a very good idea if you are trying to build a stock screener. And then it says that it does not use sort of chat GPT like AI, which is generative AI. It says uses AI that's more common in the vision and sound recognition fields. I think by that it means sort of more of a neural network for classification, and that's what I think is working in the back end here. And so let's look at some of the details here. So they have some actual performance summaries. So let's first look at what their take profit and stop loss looks like. So they put a take profit of 5% above the signal price and a stop loss of 7.5%. And if they don't see any of those movements within the 30 days, they sort of sell the stock. So that seems like a fairly reasonable sort of way to design the trading strategy. It follows sort of how we design our strategies as well. So now let's come to some of the actual performance summaries. So they have in the last 3 months, they show that the aggregate return is 84%. So they have a success ratio of 71%. They won 24 trades and lose 10 trades. And again, like 5-6% is their loss, because they're trying to win 5% at each trade, but they cut off their trades at like minus 5.8%. So kind of we see that they have like they're trying to, in reality, their take profit and stop loss are kind of similar in the last 3 months, but they win more trades. Like they win more trades than they lose, so it's larger than 60%, so larger than 50%, so 71% of a winning rate, which gives them this P&L, which is pretty impressive. And again, the P&L in The last 6 and the 12 months are pretty impressive. We know that we are in a bull market, and that's probably what, they are taking advantage of the bull market. With the help of AI, they are going to be better than the S&P 500. So one question is, what would happen if these strategies are employed in the bear market? And that's sort of something to think about if you are trying to design something like this. So, but the most impressive thing, the reason that I like them, is that they are very clear on what their trades are in the last 3 months. You can see what the day that they buy and sell the stock, what the signal was, and what the buy price was. So what I did was I looked at 4 of these trades just to get an idea and to try to reverse engineer what their strategy might be. The first one I looked at is which is Shopify, which they bought in 11/04, November 4th. They sold on November 7th. They made 7.71% gain. That's pretty impressive. So let's see what they did here. So I'm looking at Shopify's daily chart here, and they bought Shopify at 11/04, and the signal was at 78.99. So that's pretty close to here. So let's see what happened at 11/04. Sorry, not here. This is November 4th, right? So this is November 4th. This is when they buy Shopify. So I think what is going on here is that they use this line, which I drew this blue line based on their value of the signal. And what I think is going on here is that they have identified this as a support resistance line using the AI, and they are basically buying when the stock hits the support resistance line, or in this case, it is a resistance. And you can clearly see, if we sort of zoom back, the Shopify stock clearly shows that this is a line that was a resistance in sort of multiple points before. So this is clearly a line of strong resistance that they have identified, and they're trying to buy the stock based on that. Excuse me. And they were pretty successful in this case when the stock sort of hit this resistance line and started to sort of rise, and they took advantage of that. And I think they sell 84.39. So somewhere here. Well, somewhere here, they could have taken advantage of this line as well. But that would have gone into the earnings, which probably they wanted to avoid. But I have no way of knowing. But it is very clear that they are trying to use a support resistance to make their trades. Second example, LUMN. This particular trade, again, won about 7%, taken on 10/16. So again, I look at the chart here. October 16 is somewhere here. October 16, and clearly it hits sort of a very recent sort of line, which was like a resistance, but now is a support line, and then it sort of reverses and like goes up from here. And so the trend is pretty clear. This is what the AI is doing. I think if we go back in time, we might see this being, I mean, you can clearly see that it was a resistance here, but now again it's a support, and then it sort of goes up from here. So again, the trend is pretty clear. So what happens when they lose? I looked at 2 examples. Let's look at DXC, which they lost like 6%, and they bought at 11/12. So November 12th, which is sometime here. So I think what the algorithm is bad at is identifying support versus resistance. It's clearly a place where, if I were a human being, I would have assumed that this is a place which is a strong sort of line. This was a support here and a support here. So historically, this is a strong line of support. So that is the base of this argument on why to buy it. But this is a recent sort of high, fairly, like all-time high in like, I don't know, in after like at least April. This is the first all-time high. And then I would have expected this to reverse price, which it did, but I think the algorithm sort of is basically cannot distinguish between support and resistance. That's kind of what I understand. So that I think is what to improve on this algorithm, which seems like elementary, but I think that machines are not that good, or the current state of these softwares are not that good. Let's look at the last example, CCK. CCK, again, 6% loss, bought on October 21. October 21. We see the exact same problem. An all-time high, the stock going up and instead of reversing, and they probably cannot distinguish between a support and a resistance. I think based on the fact that this was a support line here, and then a resistance line here, that's the sort of historical, based on the historical price, they sort of automatically sort of selected this stock, but this was a poor choice by the machine. So that was my review of what Yuyostox does. I think it's a reasonable attempt and fairly honest at the outset attempt to try to use AI to pick stocks. It's doing very well in a bull market, but that doesn't mean that it's going to do always. So with that, I do conclude that there is some reasonable, like the algorithm, we can reverse engineer the algorithm, but there can be an improvement based on identifying whether the price is sort of going to reverse on the downside or on the upside. Thanks, and comment and let me know if there are what you think about the algorithm and the stock surveys, and if there are any interesting sort of AI-based stock surveys you want me to review.